There are plants on this planet that evolved to look like stones, mimic rotting meat, and catch animals larger than most housecats. Not as a party trick. As a survival strategy refined over millions of years in the most nutrient-starved, hostile soils on Earth. We're going to go through 10 of them today, and by the time we're done, you won't look at a weird-looking plant the same way again. What looks like a design flaw is almost always an engineering solution, and some of these solutions are stranger than anything the synthetic plant industry has ever managed to produce. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Number 1. Lithops. If you picked up a lithops from the ground in the Namib Desert, your brain would tell you it's a pebble, and you'd put it back down. That's not a loose resemblance. The surface texture, the muted color banding, the split down the center that mimics a crack in quartz, all of it matches the exact rock type in the specific area where that population grows. Different populations match different local rocks, which means this mimicry evolved independently multiple times in response to grazing pressure. Now consider what's actually happening inside that pebble. Most of the plant sits underground. What you see at the surface is two fused water-storing leaves, and the translucent tissue at the top scatters incoming light rather than focusing it, so the photosynthetic cells buried below don't get scorched. Botanists still find new lithops species by looking for rocks that don't quite match the surrounding geology. Number 2. Dionea muscipula. Out of roughly 300,000 known plant species, almost all of them just sit there and take whatever comes. They get eaten, they grow back, or they don't. Dionea muscipula closes on a moving insect in under a second, and it does it without a single muscle cell. The mechanism puzzled botanists for a long time because standard plant biology runs on slow hydraulic pressure changes. What Dionea actually uses is a snap-buckling system, where each lobe stores elastic energy in its outward curve the way an inverted contact lens stores energy before it pops back into shape. 2 touches within about 20 seconds releases that stored energy and the lobes snap shut. That 2-touch threshold means the plant is functionally counting. A single raindrop won't trigger it. Even after closing, the trap only seals completely and starts secreting digestive enzymes if the prey keeps struggling, so a pebble never triggers digestion. It's modified leaf tissue running a verification sequence in nitrogen-starved Carolina bog soil. Number 3. Dracula simia. Most flowers evolved to pull pollinators in with color, scent, or nectar. Dracula simia skipped all of that and evolved a face instead. A primate face with 2 dark eyes, a rounded nose, and a mouth, growing in the cloud forests of Ecuador and Peru at elevations where pollinators are already scarce. The monkey resemblance isn't what the plant is actually doing, though. The visual structure mimics fungal fruiting bodies, and the scent mimics ripe fruit, so the fungus gnats it targets show up thinking they've found a feeding or breeding site. There's no nectar reward. The gnat gets nothing and transfers pollen without ever understanding what happened. Roughly a third of all orchid species run this same no-reward deception. Dracula simia just runs 2 deception channels at once, visual and olfactory, and the flower hangs below the foliage at the exact height where fungi actually grow on the cloud forest floor. Number 4. Amorphophallus titanum. Amorphophallus titanum builds toward a single bloom for years, sometimes a decade, storing energy in an underground corm that can weigh over 70 kilograms. During that time, the only thing you see above ground is one massive leaf structure that looks like a small tree. The leaf dies back, the corm rests, and the cycle repeats until there's enough stored energy to attempt a flower. When it finally blooms, the spadix generates heat through rapid cellular respiration, pushing its tip close to human body temperature. That heat volatilizes sulfur compounds that smell like rotting flesh, pulling in carrion beetles and flesh flies from a significant distance. The female flowers open first, then the male flowers release pollen roughly a day later, which forces cross-pollination. In Sumatran rainforest, where individual plants can sit kilometers apart, that long-range odor plume isn't excess. It's a logistical requirement. Number 5. Hydnora africana. Hydnora africana doesn't photosynthesize, doesn't produce leaves, and spends most of its life completely underground. running a network of fleshy tissue into the roots of euphorbia shrubs and pulling out water, sugars, and minerals through specialized penetrating organs called haustoria. The host plant doesn't die immediately, but a heavy infestation slows it down considerably. The only time Hydnora africana surfaces is to bloom, and what comes up looks geological rather than biological. A cracked, brown-orange structure that pushes slowly through dry soil over several days, smelling of feces. Inside the flower, a ring of stiff, inward-pointing hairs lets beetles and carrion flies enter, but traps them there for up to 2 days before releasing them coated in pollen. That detention strategy evolved independently in several unrelated plant lineages, so it's a solution the data keeps arriving at. Number 6, Euphorbia obesa. Euphorbia obesa grows in the rocky, near-waterless terrain of the Great Karoo, and if you set one next to a baseball, the match is close enough that collectors drove it toward extinction before trade protections stopped the bleeding. The sphere isn't a coincidence. A sphere gives you the lowest possible surface area relative to volume of any three-dimensional shape. So less skin exposed means less water lost to evaporation in a desert environment. At night, the stomata open to pull in carbon dioxide, which gets stored as an acid. Then the stomata close during the day while photosynthesis runs on that stored carbon. No open pores in full sun means almost no water escaping through gas exchange. The ribs let the whole body expand after rain and contract during drought without the outer skin tearing, like a built-in accordion. Number 7, Strongylodon macrobotries. Strongylodon macrobotries produces flower chains up to 1 meter long, and the color stops people cold. It's a blue-green that doesn't read as biological. It looks like painted ceramic or tinted glass, not something that grew out of soil in a Philippine rainforest. That color isn't random. Bats are the primary pollinators, and their vision picks up light in ranges that shift toward ultraviolet, so that unusual blue-green registers as bright and conspicuous to them at dusk and dawn when they're actively feeding. The flowers face downward and outward so hovering bats can reach the nectar, and the flower shape deposits pollen directly onto the bat's head as it feeds. The pigment combination producing that turquoise is rare across flowering plants, and it sits in a spectral range that most insects can't even detect. Number 8, Mimosa pudica. Touch a Mimosa pudica leaf and it folds shut within a second or two, the whole branch drooping like it's recoiling. Brush multiple leaves in sequence and the response travels up the stem like a wave. For centuries, people who stumbled across it thought they were watching an animal. The mechanism runs on electrical signals called action potentials that move through the plant tissue and trigger rapid water loss in specialized cells at the base of each leaflet, called pulvini. The cells deflate and the leaf drops. What's worth noting is that the same anesthetic compounds that block nerve conduction in animals also stop this response in Mimosa pudica. Number 9, Taca chantrieri. Taca chantrieri produces flowers that are almost entirely black, with long filamentous bracts extending outward like whiskers up to 70 centimeters long. The whole structure looks assembled rather than grown, and in the deep shade of a Southeast Asian forest understory, it stands out in a way that seems like a bad strategy for a plant trying to attract pollinators. Black absorbs light instead of reflecting it, so flies navigating low light conditions respond to contrast and shape rather than color. And a dark flower in a dim forest can actually read as high contrast against the surrounding leaf litter. The long filaments likely mimic the fine threads of fungal growth around decomposing matter, and a faint, unpleasant scent adds to the illusion of a breeding site. Number 10, Nepenthes. Nepenthes pictures look engineered. The flared lip, the hinged lid, the tapered body, it reads like something machined, not grown. But the chemistry running inside a mature pitcher goes well beyond what the shape suggests. The fluid isn't water. It's viscoelastic, meaning it behaves like both a liquid and a gel depending on conditions, and it carries a mix of digestive enzymes that break down soft tissue. The viscosity shifts with temperature and pitcher age. In the larger species like Nepenthes raja and Nepenthes loei from Borneo, the pitchers hold over 2 liters of this fluid and have been found with partially digested rats inside. Every plant on this list faced a hard problem and solved it with whatever biology had available. Poor soil, scarce water, unreliable pollinators, constant grazing pressure. The solutions look strange to us because we're used to plants that grew in easier conditions, so we set our expectations by the easy cases. The synthetic plant industry works hard to make fake plants look real. These 10 species spent millions of years evolving to look like something else entirely. Stones, rot, fungal threads, dark voids, and every one of those choices got tested by selection pressure we can actually measure.